Welcome to my challenge to double the rental income from my holiday homes.
Hi, I'm Martin Finn and welcome again to Double My Rental Income. Now, in this edition I'm going to talk a little bit more about research. That's where I got up to last time. I said that I'm very much in the research phase, so I thought to myself, where can I start? What information do I have? What hard facts do I have that I can base my initial research upon? And of course, we've been renting out our properties for a number of years. In fact, we have 150 successful rentals, so there's a whole load of data there which I might well be able to access. That's where I'm going to start. You will already know that I have a revenue plan, and the revenue plan looks pretty much like this. You'll see that 2010, 2011, really tough years. I mean, we started out fantastically in 2007, but boy, we fell off a cliff in revenues. And now they're rebuilding, but let's not forget that they're rebuilding now with 2 properties. We originally started with just 1. So you can see why I want to double our rental income, because I believe we can. We used to be there, and we have, like I say, 2 properties. So where can I go? What are my sources of information? Here's our bookings page on rental systems. Now, those of you that know rental systems may know that they were originally called Villarenters. And now they're called Rental Systems, and they're also now called Clickstay. I'm not sure what their name is going to be long term, but the majority of our bookings have been through this engine. I'm not necessarily saying they're the best, by the way. Later on in this whole series, I'm going to be reviewing which are the best booking engines for me. Currently I use 4, but the bulk of our bookings come through Rental Systems. And one of the things I really love about Rental Systems is the fact that the customers feel like they're mine. So I've got a whole load of information here. Now, it's a bit painful because you can see on the page to get it off, there's no way to download the information. There used to be, by the way, but if I cut and paste this and put it into Excel, which is what I've done, then I can create for myself a huge database of information like I've got here. So I know a wealth about every one of my 150 previous bookings. So what have I been able to learn? We know about the revenues, but let's look beyond the revenues. And you'll see this rather complicated chart here has numbers across the bottom. The numbers 1 to 12 are for the months of the year. In fact, I say 1 to 12, notably 2 isn't there. And what that tells me is I've never had a single piece of revenue out of February. Now, if there's ever a month then that I know that I should be closing down to do whatever reparations are ready, it's February. I'm not going to be losing anything because I've never had a single booking. What it also shows me is August is our biggest month by a mile. I knew that anyway. But it's interesting to see it here because this breaks down. The different colours are the different years. And even in our appalling years of revenue, you can see that exactly the same pattern and spread has happened. So the same months generate the same proportion of bookings. So I don't think it's a bad idea to interpret that further and say, in doubling my rental revenues, I should be looking again for the same distribution of revenue across the months, if that's possible, and if the rates will bear it. What else have I seen? Well, because of Rental Systems treats the customers as mine, I have full details about the customers, which of course includes where they're from. I mean specifically where they're from, given their address. That's really useful because I can do this, which tells me exactly where they're from in the world. And the big red line tells you, even though I'm on the south coast of Ireland, my biggest market is the UK. By a mile, they are my biggest market, and the fastest growing as well. The Irish market was big. 1 year it was bigger than the UK market, but since then it hasn't sustained itself. And in fact, we now get as much business from Northern Ireland, which although it's on the island of Ireland, is actually part of the UK and operates in sterling. In fact, we used to price in sterling, and it's worthwhile reconsidering whether we should again price in sterling rather than euros. The bulk of our business are from sterling dominated countries. Our US business did start out well, but has declined. And maybe I think Whether that will rise again, I don't know. But it's not really a factor that I can impact. You know, getting tourists back into Ireland isn't my game. So my target market is primarily UK. Although there may still be growth to get out of Ireland. They are on my doorstep after all. What else have I learnt? Well, here's a fascinating set of information. You see, in rental systems, they ask of customers something that I do not see from any other booking engine. When I get a booking, it tells me how many people are coming and also their age distribution and also their names, actually. Given their age distribution and their names, I can work out a number of really good things. I can actually interpret, and it is interpret, I'll accept, what kind of group they are. Are they a family? Are they friends? Are they a 3-generation family? The red line there is a 3-generation family. And if you'll see, this is my second largest market. My largest market, family groups. Now that may be mum, dad and some kids, or it may be mum, dad and auntie and uncle and all their kids. The houses can take up to 9 people, including an infant. So they could be 2 small families. I class them all as a family. That's still a family holiday. The family holidays and 3-generation family holidays, they are by a mile my largest markets. What else? Well, who books a holiday? Really interesting. When do they book and what do they like? Well, first of all, 63% of the people who actually book are women. Now that's the reverse in our family. I tend to be the one that books the holidays for our family. But here you go, 63% are women. When do they book? Well, 75% of the peak season sales are made before the end of February. If I haven't sold the peak season by the end of February, I'm probably not going to. Alarm bells should be ringing. And rather interestingly, because the data was there as well, people tend to book on Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday. The worst day for getting a booking is Friday. And I can only interpret that as people kind of researching over the weekend and then saying, right, let's go for it. Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday, and definitely before the end of February for the peak season. Interestingly as well, if you look at that gap between when people book and when they're coming, depending on the time of year, that gap varies. So people coming at Easter don't tend to book also until about February. There's a much shorter window for their Easter holiday than for summer holiday, where they're booking maybe 6 months in advance. This is really interesting information. I'm sure I'll find some purpose for it. What do our customers like? Well, how am I going to find that out? Well, let's look at the reviews. So again, I'm going to go across and look at our rental systems, in fact now called Clickstay, page. And you will see here that we have, for one property, 3 Clifton, 37 reviews, with a whole bunch of reviews on our other properties before Clifton as well. And if I go to these, you'll see that 37 verified reviews, and wow, we got 5 stars all over the place. That's great news. We love to see that. That's really what we're aiming for. But I want to know a little bit more about that. So it's been a bit of a pain, but all of these reviews here have a whole load of words behind them. And what I've done is taken all of those words and put them into a document. And you'll see here, I'm just scrolling through. This is a Word doc where I've literally taken all of those reviews and dropped them into a single Word document. Great. It's actually 21,000 words. So I can read through them, but what does that tell me? And I thought what I would try and do is to try and make some sense out of them. I would just pick out of each of those reviews the active sentences, trying to miss out all the connecting words and the niceties, to just say, summary words here, where people have said, fantastic location, helpful and welcoming, picking out the real active phrases in the sentence, just to make sense of those. I experimented with a thing called Tag Cloud where I just drop those words in and you get this nice picture here where, each of these words, beautiful, equipped, window. But I really couldn't do much with that. I looked at these lists of active words and I was convinced there was something more I could do, something better analysis that I could make of these to turn it into some really useful information for me. So I took the active phrases and placed them all into a spreadsheet, and I then coded them. I'll use the word coded them. I put them into groups. What was it talking about? 5 to 10 minute walk from the beach. It's talking about the location of the house, and it's talking about a subgroup of its location vis-a-vis the beach. So just a simple classification. And then I used a thing called a pivot table to actually explain that data. And we can see it a little more clearly here. So we have some main sections at the top where people have talked about fun, only a few. Most, of course, talked about the home. Well, that's not too surprising because actually this is a review system reviewing the property that they rented. So I'm not getting overblown by that. I actually needed to dissect further than just the home. The location, the owners, that was quite interesting. I hadn't interpreted that would come up as often as it did in their people's reviews. The town, and that was actually mentioned rather less than I expected. And views. Our properties do have stunning views over the bay, so I wasn't at all surprised to see that. So I have some data here, but I wanted to look at it more to try and find out which was the most important data. Like I say, the bulk part of it is about the home, but it's no great surprise. Digging deeper though, 32 times people mentioned the specialness of the house, the wow factor. And that's really important. I'd always thought the wow factor was important, but it was interesting to see. I've got some hard data here of just how many times people talk about that, the wow factor, more than any other individual factor. Then, of course, 28 times people talk about location. Our properties are really located well first of all, well within the space of our town. It's a very easy walk to the beach and just as easy walk into the town and the bars and everything else. You don't need a car to do any of those things. You can just stroll, which is people really love. The other thing is as well, we're well located within Ireland. So if you have a car, you can have day trips and go to loads and loads of different places around here. And so obviously location is always important with any property, and it's true here with our holiday property. The next thing that people spoke about was these views. Clearly that's part of the wow factor as well, but they specifically mentioned the views, and I need to make sure that people get that when I'm going on to market and talk about our property to entice new guests. I need to talk about that and really show those views off. And the last one that I picked out here was equipment and furnishings. I think people are generally surprised and delighted with the amount of equipment and furnishings and quality of furnishings that we have in the house. We made it our objective in the houses that if we ever went and stayed somewhere and they had some piece of equipment or furniture that we thought, yeah, that's really good, we made sure that we have it. And again, people were surprised by that and delighted by that. And so I need to make sure that that is pressed forward in when I come to doing the marketing. So these are the key findings that I found out from just looking at all of our existing customers. Although I have to say that diving into that data that came back from rental systems, and all of this comes from rental system, diving into that data, I'm sure there's a lot more that I can learn as well. And in the blog that I'm about to do, I'll probably list some of the other things that I found out. So, finishing on this first stage of my research, and boy, there's a load more to do. I'd just like to say thank you, and I hope to see you again.
I hope you've enjoyed that episode of Double My Rental Income, and I really hope you'll join me again. Don't forget, you can find out much more about my challenge and how it's progressing by visiting the website www.doublemyrentalincome.com. And you can sign up on the website too to get the very latest news and some extra special content which I can't make available elsewhere. So please join me again. And remember, If this has been valuable to you, I'm giving it to you for free, but I do make a request. Share it with others, let them know too. I want as many people as possible to start using some of the things that I have spent so long finding out about. Thank you.